Greetings and salutations, true believers. Okay, today, topic is not exactly, on a specific work, it's just more of a concept, or concepts, that I think, you and I are quite familiar with, the world's, the stuff that we deal with, and that is, expanded universe, and also, I guess, a little bit what goes along with it, that goes hand in hand, continuity. Because in, things like comics and movies, or even novels, like when there's a series of novels dedicated to one world or something like that, there is inevitably going to be spin-off material that can either be considered canon or not. And what made me want to talk about this was some stuff that I picked up not too long ago. These are both Omnibuses by Dark Horse, and I'm sure you've seen in places where comics are sold that that Dark Horse had the licensing to lots of spin-off material for various movie franchises and things like that in the 80s and 90s. Star Wars, The Terminator, Aliens, Predator, later Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And anyway, a lot of those have gone out of print, and then in recent years they collected them in these books called Omnibuses. I'm a really big fan of this format. I like the size and that sort of thing. And I got a little tiny bit of money from the government and decided, hey, you know what, I'll buy more comics, because that's what I do. And so I got Star Wars Omnibus, Shadows of the Empire, and Aliens Omnibus Volume 1. And both of them really come into the whole, again, concept of expanded universe, particularly Star Wars, because if you're ever talking about the idea of an expanded universe, probably the first thing that comes to mind is Star Wars, I'm sure, because I'm not aware of any other expanded universe that is nearly as vast. And when I say vast, I mean vast. Ever since late 1976, when the novelization of Star Wars A New Hope came out, probably with no one noticing, to present day, there have been so many things besides just the movies that form the core. Of course, at first we had Star Wars A New Hope in 1977, followed by Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back in 1980 and 1983, Return of the Jedi, and for many years that was the core series, while spin-off things and expanding universe things were happening. And then, of course, in 1999, one of the most anticipated movies of all time that really brought the word prequel into the mainstream consciousness. Not that we hadn't heard of prequels before, but I mean, let's face it, this was the prequel, Star Wars Episode 1, Phantom Menace, to be followed in later years by the other two, Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. And those 6 movies now form the core of the Star Wars universe. But then there is the expanded universe. Star Wars, like I said, is vast. It has its own Wikipedia-type site that you can get onto, and you can get a list of all Star Wars media, that are not just media, but you know what I mean, collected in that. And there are no less than 2,300 things, all with at least a little bit of an article. This includes comic books, TV series, playing cards, and of course many novels, novelizations, and featuring all sorts of things. So getting Shadows of the Empire really kicked that off, me thinking about that again, and thinking back when it first came, and that which was in 1996, when I really first started appreciating and understanding that there was a lot more to Star Wars than simply the 3 movies that existed at the time. This was the year, of course, before the 20th anniversary, where in 1997 we would see the theatrical re-releases of the special editions, which I guess is very controversial amongst the fan base. A lot of things, added in and changed, and a lot of people thought it was great, a lot of people were in the middle, a lot of people, of course, thought it was terrible and won't watch them. Anyway, Raiho and I, actually, we went to see Iron Man 2 the other day, and we were both reminiscing about that time in our lives. We were both, 14, and we thought Star Wars was awesome. We both like Star Trek a bit, but I think it's fair to say, at least, okay, I won't speak for Raiho, but me, I'm definitely a Star Wars guy. It's not like you have to pick one or the other. I'm just saying, if I did, definitely Star Wars, although they always appealed to me because of its more, maybe broader themes, and just more about high adventure, reminding me of all the things that, that George Lucas would go on to say that inspired him in the first place, adventure epics, and Saturday matinee serials, and pulp, and, westerns, and samurai movies of Kurosawa, all that stuff, legends, myths, all that stuff is really what appeals to me, and why Star Wars struck such a chord with me in my life. So anyway, back to 1996. So this was quite an interesting event. Shadows of the Empire. The whole idea of it was that it was sort of like it was called a media event, and the idea was everything that would come out in the in support of a movie, except there was no movie. Shadows of the Empire was never a movie. Shadows of the Empire, I will just clear it up for you if you don't know, is actually a very rare thing, or a somewhat rare thing, called an interquel, which means that canonically and continuity-wise, it is supposed to take place between the events of the ending of Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back and before Return of the Jedi starts. It's somewhere in a 6-month period there. Anything within the Star Wars universe is measured in a timeline using BBY, before Battle of Yavin. The Battle of Yavin, of course, being the pivotal battle where the Rebel Alliance destroyed the first Death Star at the end of Star Wars A New Hope. It's sort of like, yeah, it's the center point from everything that's measured. So you can go back to Knights of the Old Republic or the Sith stuff, which is thousands of years before, and then you can even get, I think, a few thousands of years later, following descendants of the New Republic, of course, Luke and Leia and people like that. Okay, so Shadows of the Empire, from the day it came out, I thought it was a really neat idea. Again, there was no movie, so what it was, it came out on a few things, novels, comic books, role-playing games, a video game. And my first experience with it was the Nintendo 64 video game. It was it was an early third-party Nintendo 64 game, and I think the first one, I never had a Nintendo 64, but Raiho did. And I think it was his first third-party N64 game, and despite the fact that it had a lot of control issues, it was still really fun to play, a really cool game. I spent a lot of time playing it, or even just watching other people play it, and it mostly follows, well, pretty much does follow the exploits of a character created for Shadows of the Empire, sort of a Han Solo ripoff, Dash Rendar. And the whole idea of the main event of Shadows of the Empire was that you couldn't get the whole story just by doing one thing. The N64 game follows Dash. And then the comics, which are covered here, which there's not that many. I think it's only 6 issues. There's what else is included here is 2 other stories that are related to it that happen in the wake of it, following other characters. But as far as just that goes, it mostly follows Bounty Hunter Boba Fett and what he finds himself dealing with in the wake of taking Han Solo frozen in carbonate, trying to deliver him to gangster Jabba the Hutt to collect his bounty, and the problems he encounters on the way. Rival bounty hunters trying to steal him from him, and that sort of thing. It also briefly touches on what Luke and Leia are doing and their efforts trying to get Han back, and also introduces a completely new villain that is not seen in the, like I said, the core Star Wars films. I don't know how to say his name. Zizor? It starts on an X. Prince Zizor, who is the head of the Black Sun, a very large criminal organization, which the Empire is working out a sort of a deal with, again, during those times, in the wake of Empire Strikes Back. And of course Zizor, as you might imagine, because it just makes a crooked story, wants to double-cross them. And anyway, in the course of these comics, he seems to be dealt with very quickly and easily. And that's because, we're not getting the whole story here. You need the novel and that sort of thing. When you read just the comic, this also makes it seem as though Dash dies, you figure. But of course, if you play through the N64 game, you know that isn't so. There's Zizor meeting Princess Leia. I don't have a lot of time to talk about this, so this will be a 2-parter, because it's not even really the comics I so much want to analyze, but just the idea of expanded universes and continuity. We all have our own ideas. I'll also talk about Aliens. Big fan of the first 2 movies. And Aliens. Yeah, and just for the hell of it, I'll show. Oop, there's Star Wars on DVD. But yeah. So I don't think I covered what I wanted to cover exactly, but we'll get into a part 2, because what I'm trying to do here is get a discussion going, dialogues to talk about just the idea of expanded universes and the idea of what we ourselves choose to include. Because, things, you can accept things as canon, but you don't have to. It's all fiction, right? It's all made up, so we can decide what happened. Just like, when Boba Fett died in the end, or seemingly died in his scene in the beginning of Return of the Jedi, falling supposedly to a depth of the Sarlacc pit, a lot of fanboys or people that just liked him were like, no, Boba wouldn't go out that way. And, there's actually expanded universe stuff that has since come out that supports that and says, yeah, he got away, and he had further adventures, blah, blah, blah. And, you can ignore it, you can refute it, you can accept it, all that stuff. Anyway, I gotta wrap this up. I'll be coming to you soon, hopefully. Okay, stay tuned.